The fact that something has to have a creation just leads to the next question of, well, then who created that entity and who created that entity? And the theological answer is, well, God is that which does not need to be created. Well, why can't the universe be that which does not need to be created?
This conversation really hasn't changed in the last 15 years. The same pattern of thought continues again and again and again. So let's see if we can clear it up once and for all here.
So the idea, he says, the default is that we just say we don't know, and that's sort of like this neutral position that is supposedly unbiased that atheists have, but that's not true, because most societies throughout human history have been religious. I mean, the vast majority of people who have ever lived have looked at reality and said, I didn't make this. I didn't come up with this. And look at the order and the majesty and the beauty of creation. There must be a God. So it seems like that's almost the default position. And then on top of that, we all have to decide what we're going to do with the information out there. And if you decide, no, everything just sort of happened accidentally, or it all happened, randomly by chance, and there's no higher order, that's a commitment. That's a worldview commitment that has consequences. If there isn't a God, then the consequences are you were predetermined to do it by your biology anyway. But if there is a God, and this is kind of Pascal's wager, there's infinite consequences for that. There's infinite judgment that's going to result from that. So just this idea that it's all default atheism is just silly in my opinion.
To use a really basic analogy that I heard someone give one time, if you were to come home and on the countertop with the alphabet cereal or whatever, it was spelled out articulately, welcome home from school, this is your mom, I love you. It in a sense would be a mom of the gaps argument to infer that there was intelligence behind the formation of those letters. In a sense, it would be a mom of the gaps argument. But in another sense, you realize the absurdity of stuffing God of the gaps into the gaps. And that's sort of what I see Shermer doing here, is just to say anything that points to intelligence is not allowed.
Yeah.
To suggest that information points to intelligence, even like to go back to the kitchen analogy here, to say that that's not allowed, I think is philosophically hugely problematic, because it predetermines that we must omit one plausible conclusion.
Yeah. And the most obvious plausible conclusion is that it's your mom. She wrote that note to you,
Yes.
And in the same way, I think the most plausible conclusion is there's this language in our DNA, there's this fine tuning in this universe, and it seems very plausible that those sorts of things are created by a mind that transcends our created order. So, and the idea of, well, who created the creator, that's just a playground argument. I mean, that's just not even it's a misunderstanding, a fundamental misunderstanding of the Kalam argument, which is whatever begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. Well, God doesn't begin to exist. That's what God is. He's the fundamental foundation of all reality.
And in case someone says, well, that's special pleading, you're saying, hey, our God gets to not begin to exist. The point, in case anyone missed it, that Dr. Meyer is making here is that, as far as I understand it, basically, given that there is existence itself, given that there is anything, something must be eternal.
Yeah.
Or else you're faced with an infinite regression problem. Well, what caused that? What caused that? What caused that?
Buck's got to stop somewhere.
There has to be an unmoved mover of all the other train cars. How are the train cars moving? Let's go to the next train car. Let's go to the next train car. At some point, there has to be one unmoved mover that's not getting pushed by anything else, that's pushing everything else. One uncaused first cause. There must be some primary thing, given that anything at all exists. So then the question becomes, is it the creation or the creator, to stuff in a little bit of my bias, but is it God, or is it these, energy, raw energy, quantum fluctuations, math? Am I the only one that just feels like each of those things is inherently derivative? They don't provide an explanation. Saying language is primary is not logical. Yeah. Saying math is primary is not logical. Yeah. Saying energy is primary is not logical. Just positing that some material thing is primary just I don't know if I'm the only one, but it just does not compute.
Like John Lennox said, the laws of mathematics never put any money in my pocket. You've got to actually go out there and do stuff. You've got to have agents that create and take actions. So the laws of nature are just descriptions of the ways that things usually operate.